Hi, welcome to another episode of the Trauma Translator. I'm really excited to chat with you all today. And before we dive in, I just want to share some things that have kept me going, some things I learned along the way, and something inspiring. So today's inspiring quote of the day is a Buddha quote. And it is, in the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of what is not meant for you. And that's the true definition of surrender and healing. So, a mantra that has also kept sustaining me through really, really challenging, hard times is I am really proud of myself. And I am. It's been a really hard thing to go through all of this. And starting a business alone is really difficult, let alone all of the other craziness. So, when you speak to yourself, how you speak to yourself, it lives in every part of your cell and it matters. And that's just what I wanted to share for today. And really quick, something I learned this week that I think is useful is you can renew your passport online. You don't even have to go get a picture at a local pharmacy at Walgreens or any of the other places. You could literally take it with a white background and renew it online. And because I've had to solve every problem by myself my entire life, I learned some things that other people might not know. So if this helps you today, I hope that it does. And if it doesn't, maybe it'll help somebody else. And right now, I'm really excited to welcome Daniel Burrus, who is joining me today. And welcome, Daniel.
Hey, thank you so much. So great to be with you today.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. So tell me a little bit about how I know that you've been in tech for a really long time. It says 43 years, which is more than I've been alive at this point.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about what your background is in tech.
Yeah, well, I actually started out long ago teaching biology and physics, so I've got a research science background. And as I was doing that, I had an idea for an airplane design. So I designed it, test flew it, and in the first year, I had 37 national locations. It literally took off. And within 2 years, I had 4 different companies that I had started, and all of them were very innovative, all using new technologies, and they all were doing really well. However, I missed teaching. And I did something that was really important I would like all of our viewers to consider, and that is your ideal future. So as I was looking at opening up a West Coast manufacturing plant, et cetera, I asked myself, way out into the future, if I'm in my late 90s and this is how I lived my professional part of my life, am I happy? And the answer was no. So I knew I had to sell those companies because that was not my future. Even though they were doing really well, that was not my ideal future. And actually, I missed the teaching part. And actually, I was put on the planet to teach versus tell, as you'll find out as we discuss this. And but I didn't want to go back to teaching because you can never go back. You can only go forward. By the way, I ride a Harley Davidson motorcycle. One of the reasons I like it, it does not have a reverse. You can only go forward. So I did a something that we can explore later if you'd like, and that is I employed one of my principles, and that is to take your problem and skip it. So I decided to skip all the things I didn't like about teaching. One of the things I didn't like about it is the limitation of the size of the classroom. So I decided to skip that and make the classroom planet Earth. Well, I've given speeches in 51 countries, and I have my books are in many, many, many multiple languages. Obviously, that worked. I didn't like the limitations and the politics of an institution like a university. So I decided to not work for one. I skipped that and decided to start my own business. So I did that many decades ago, as you mentioned. I researched all of the innovations in biology, chemistry, physics, all the latest things, came up with my forecasting methodologies, how to be more anticipatory versus reactionary. And that's what I've been doing. So I've written 7 books, given thousands of speeches, do consulting, and basically help people see the invisible and do the impossible. So we'll leave you with those comments.
Yeah, no, that speaks to my journey as well. I also, before I went to college, everyone thought I was going to be a teacher. My mom worked in a school. I didn't like the politics of schools, but I am a teacher. Once you know how to teach one thing, you can teach anything, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing here as a trauma translator. I spent the last 20 years in emerging technology, being able to take abstract, complex ideas and make them palatable across varying levels of audiences and understanding. And I was able to use my weight loss to explain data fidelity and quality to varying levels of audiences and understanding. So that's what I'm doing with trauma. And I am combining neuroscience with emerging technology and real lived experience and all different ways to really basically educate the world, because that's also my purpose as well. And I see a lot of synergy with what you're talking about. But I don't agree with ignoring your problems, because that is how you get into dangerous situations. You don't need to go backwards, but you do need to be able to process them and learn from them so you can move forward in a healthy manner. And that's really what I'm here to talk about, because I ignored my problems for all these years and I got really sick. And I ended up getting really sick and losing my, and like, it was after losing my job 6 times and losing my whole family, and it compounds over time. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, when you think about leading versus leading with foresight. I like to think about it with foresight, right? Instead of being reactionary, you're proactive. So when you think about that and emerging technology, how do you position that to the people that are listening to your lectures and are attending your conferences?
Well, before getting into that, I want to address something that to make sure I was clear. And that is when I said skipped my problem, I did not say ignore it. I don't want us to ignore our problem. So let me define how you do problem skipping, which is different than ignoring. So let me address that, because actually it's an amazing subject. So whatever problem you've got, that's not it. That's why you're stuck. Hey, you're smart. You would have solved it by now. You're working on the wrong problem. So problem skipping is realizing the problem that you think you have is not it. In other words, your problem's not your problem. There's another problem.
I agree with that.
So let me give you some examples, because it's very powerful. Let me take a simple example. My niece called me not long ago, and her name is Hallie, and she's got a job, her first job, and she's having trouble saving money. Her problem is she can't save money. And she knows it's possible because her older sister, Audrey, can save money like crazy. Hallie can't save money. So she said, Uncle Dan, I can't save money. That's my problem. I'm working on it. I'm trying hard, but I just can't save money. And I said, well, that's because you're working on the wrong problem. You should be working on how you spend money. If you work on how you spend money, you'll save money by default. And by the way, she did that, and it changed everything. Let me give you a business example of problem skipping. Again, not problem ignoring, problem skipping. So here's another business example. I was working with a big hotel chain, and they had 10 new hotels that they built. And when they opened them up, they were getting complaints from all 10 hotels about the slow elevators. Everyone said the elevators are slow. And by the way, you can't just speed up an elevator.
No, yeah, of course.
You can't do that.
Well, it's physics.
You'd have to tear the whole place apart to build a new elevator.
Yeah.
So they had an impossible problem. But as I said to that hotel chain, actually, that's not the right problem. The problem is people are bored and noticing how slow the elevators are. Let's give them something to do. So what we did is we put a mirror at the entrance of every elevator, and all the complaints went away, because now, oh, you could check out your tie, your dress. Oh, the elevator's here already. Problems went away. So the skip it principle, which is very powerful, is if you're stuck, if you got a problem, it's actually not the real problem. There's another problem that, by the way, is fully solvable. Dig down a little bit and you'll find it, and you can solve it.
So that's exactly how I feel about trauma. That's exactly what I'm here to talk about, because as humans, we've never really understood what trauma is. Trauma is just stress that overwhelms your ability to cope. And that looks different for everybody. But because we don't understand what somatic responses are, right? What our body is reacting to. And we've never understood, nobody teaches us as a society how to human, right? We're not ever getting to the problem at the foundational level, to your exact point. So instead of treating things in a holistic manner, right? The way you would when you want to. I came from emerging technology, and I spent a significant portion of my career in measurement. And instead of looking at one source of truth, right, like a Google Analytics or a Facebook, these walled gardens or whatever that looks like, Meta, people need to look at things in a holistic, right, and unbiased view, right, to see the full source of truth from an unbiased standpoint and see what's happening throughout online and offline channels and how everything is interacting with each other. So that's how I look at healing, right? Because no one ever taught us how to human. It took me until I was almost 40 to find out that I was in lifelong survival mode after losing and gaining over 100 pounds multiple times naturally through diet and exercise. And I've been in therapy since I was 5 after my dad's first suicide attempt. Both my parents were therapists, but nobody understood the mind-body connection. So I'd been having somatic responses, disparate somatic responses to trauma, and nobody understood it. And that's how I was able to really conceptualize when I had to go to trauma therapy in order to get my body to lose weight and to feel well again. I was really sick. It affected my thyroid. I've never taken a psychiatric drug. So when people feel stuck, like you just said, right, in these problems, there is always a solution. But because we've never been taught properly as a society how to human, because nobody fully understands the full picture of what's happening at a foundational level, we're spot treating different problems that we think we have. And we really need to look at them differently, which is why the Trauma Translator and the Why Go project at an enterprise level is focused on redefining the human experience through the lens of trauma and the art and science of connection. And that's kind of what it's like selling emerging technology. I've always called it the art and science of connection. And it's an art and a science, and you have to be able to know what to do in that moment, right? And not skip over the problem, but also identify what you could do. I think that mirror example is truly innovative, right? Like that's exactly why Merch with a Perp was born, from my own ingenuity, right? I was trying to help myself get through the day. So I started putting inspiring stickers on my original water bottle that I lost that would have broken my heart a few years ago, but I've now been able to learn detachment. And I now started a new one with my actual stickers. You can find it on whygoproject.com, Merch with a Perp. That's Merch with a Perp, healing-centered anxiety relief tools and products, with a portion of the proceeds funding the pediatric complex trauma nonprofit that I'm scaling. So when I think about problem solving, I think that's really smart. Like that's an ingenuitive, right? To put a mirror there and distract people from the long wait time. But to your original point, like that happens a lot in business, and we're not looking at what the real problem is. And, you know, when I've lost my job all of these times, you know, everyone's like, oh, you've had too many short stints, or why, like if you're interviewing internally, why did they let go of your team? But people are gaslighting us, and, you know, nobody's working within a shared reality. And the problem isn't that I've had too many short stints or my team was let go. It's the problem is there's no shared reality. And the no shared reality happens at a macro level, to your exact point. It's not just in a workplace. It's not just in dysfunctional families. It's not just in, you know, not what people call, I think the word narcissism is way overused in society. And we're going to redefine that as a trauma response, but in these types of dating relationships. So when you think about it, it's happening in the government. It's happening in every part of life. So when you think about, you know, skipping over a problem and finding a new way to solve it, that's really applicable to every part of life, not just the workplace, right?
Well, I think, first of all, it's one of the things that I was really excited about was the subject of your podcast.
Yeah.
Because we all experience failure. We all have fear. And, you know, many people are traumatized by those things, depending on the level. And first of all, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Because we have a choice in how we react to something, because we may not be able to change what happens, but how we deal with it is something that we can do. And I don't want people to be passive receivers of the future. And let me just shape what I'm saying there. And that is, we're going to spend the rest of our life in the future. The rest of our life. Maybe we got to think about it a little bit. And instead of saying, well, let's see what'll happen. Let's see if I'll be successful. Let's wait and see before I make any goals or any plans. You can wait and see yourself right out of business and everything else. What I'd like you to do is actively shape a better future for yourselves and for others. And there's a principle that I started teaching many decades ago that is very powerful, that fits our conversation, and that is the concept of future view. So let me just explain it just a minute. How you, how your kids, how your employer, or if you own your own business, how your employees or customers view the future, to a great extent, will shape how they act in the present. For example, right now, as we're meeting, people are buying Apple computer stock. Other people are selling it. What's the difference? Their future view of Apple. Some kids are thinking of going to college. Some kids are thinking of going to drugs. What's the difference? Their future view. So our future view will, how we view the future shapes how we act in the present. By the way, how we act in the present will shape our future. Your future view will determine the future you. And I think most of our future view is low, meaning our future is going to be less than it could be. It's better if you can elevate your future view, not just on motivational rah, 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 zip, boom, bah, but rather on saying, what is my ideal future, and taking action on it. You did that in your weight loss. You decided, I'll just say right now, you decided the future that I'm heading towards is not my ideal future. And you defined a better future for yourself and asked yourself, what do I need to make that happen? And you made that happen.
But But the thing is so to pause. So everyone has trauma. It's not about failures. It's not about what happens to you. And it's not even just about your reaction. Because I was in psychotherapy for my entire existence. And I learned it's about how you react to something, not about what happens. But that didn't solve it, because the real issue is it's your nervous system that's leading those future views. So if your nervous system isn't regulated, you're not going to be able to take those actions to change your life. My weight loss had nothing to do with my lifestyle. I was working out 14 hours a week, and I was almost 300 pounds. I was starving myself. I was taking laxatives. I've had eating. I mean, my parents were hippies. I grew up the way people grow up now, eating whole foods and being raised on PBS. This is what happens when you, I also have a photographic memory from under the age of 2. So a lot of the things that have kept me going, right, and kept me really successful, I call it survival mode as a superpower, or survival mode is my superpower, are the same things that almost killed me. So when you think about future views and you're talking to these people, the whole idea about how people view their future and the actions that they can take right now is based on their nervous system and what they feel is possible. So for me, I never understood why I was an athlete. I still am. I grew up doing all these things. Why was I fat? It had nothing to do with lifestyle, but I couldn't get down to the root problem because the medical community didn't understand it. I've been misdiagnosed. They thought I had a tumor. All these different things happened. So I have been I've lost weight multiple times, and I have changed my future. Every single thing I've done has changed my future. But until I changed my nervous system, nothing else changed. I kept staying stuck in those same cycles, whether it was in work, whether it was in my family life, whether it was in relationships, whatever that looked like. And so when you change your nervous system, that's how you could really change your future.
Well, in reality, what you did is you found the real problem. Remember, I said the problem you think you have, that's not it. There's another one. And the problem that you were trying to solve and the doctors were trying to solve, and it wasn't working, was they were working on the wrong problem, and you found what the right problem was
because they weren't aware of it. So that's what I want to do, is teach people, because what I want to do is spread awareness for people to understand it's really a nervous system problem. Every problem on earth is a nervous system problem, whether it's cancer, ADD, ADHD. And it wasn't that the doctors didn't want to solve those problems. It's that they weren't educated properly, because the medical community has never been taught properly. Therapists were not taught properly. Workplaces were not taught properly. So I agree with you. It's always about solving that underneath problem, but every single problem we have as a society has to do with nervous system regulation. Even in tech, when you think about emerging technology and making those decisions in real time, that has to do with nervous system regulation. And certain companies like would make different choices if like the leadership had regulated nervous systems. And that's how I view all societal issues at this point. And that's what I'm trying to communicate to people, because I really believe in the power of being proactive, right? And leading with regulation, and not leading with that type of you have to just go. And in that moment, you're making those decisions because you think it's going to impact your life in a positive way, but it ends up actually working out negatively. So
and I think, well, that's the other thing, is that we're all going faster and faster and faster. And one of the things that I've written about in one of my books, Flash Foresight, was in order to speed up, are you willing to slow down?
Exactly.
And that means I'm willing to slow down and, number one, think a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between speed and velocity. Now, let me just explain that just a minute. I was just flying coast to coast to give a speech, actually, and did the pilot of that big jet go full speed the whole way? And the answer was no. That would have burned way too much fuel, would not have been efficient. No, that wasn't about how fast they could go. What they found was the right velocity to go, so they didn't burn out the jet and burn out and use too much fuel and so on. So we need to find out what is our biological, what is our personal velocity, not in terms of, and not just speed, because you can
actually capacity. It's capacity. So so from like a biological standpoint, it's actually like, what is your capacity? And so I used to think, like, I didn't understand that I had to slow down. I only knew that's what I was in, lifelong survival mode, undiagnosed. And a lot of us live in these dysregulated states of survival, right? To your exact point, because we burn out because we don't understand what our capacity is. We're just taught to go, go, go. And I never knew how to slow down. I had to learn how to walk. I only knew how to run, like literally. So I would make decisions, right, in my professional life or in my personal life that I thought were benefiting me, but they actually were making my life more complicated because I would take these risks, I didn't even consider it a risk to be joining these early stage emerging tech companies that ended up closing, right? Because Google decides they're going to make one wrong thing. They're going to say, oh, we're not going to share our log level files outwardly, right? Or they're going to deprecate the cookie, or there's GDPR, and all of these things trickle down, right, to these organizations. And there's a bloodbath in the industry and no one takes responsibility for it. So I was making decisions to impact my life that I thought were healthy, but they were actually really detrimental. And until I understood my capacity, I had no ability to even understand how to slow down. So I agree with you. I actually call it flow equals freedom now, because when I'm able to slow down, opportunities come to me versus I'm chasing them. And when you're chasing something, it's generally not for you. Like if you have to run towards something, that's not the answer. When things just flow into your life and you are able to slow down, that's the whole point, is understanding the capacity. And for me, when I started practicing yin yoga, like yoga used to make me full of rage. And I thought my rage made me successful. So I was hell bent on keeping it. And until I went to my trauma retreat in August of 2022, I really thought that I had to be full of anger in order to be successful. I was even hired on the spot once because I had a bloody knuckle at an interview, and the CEO was like, "Oh," I took my hand out from underneath the desk because he also had an injury, and he was like, "Oh," he's like, "Anger motivates you? You're hired." And that stuck in my head. And when you don't have people in your life that have any understanding of how to help you or help themselves or giving any guidance, I don't have any family, I didn't really have anybody really looking out for me, you could get taken advantage of and you can make the really wrong decisions. So I thought I had to be angry. I thought I had to work at 850% in order to be successful. And that's actually ultimately what got me sick. So understanding my capacity through yin yoga allowed me to understand C is for cookie. That's good enough for me. It's from Sesame Street and it's real, because you could extend your body at 70% versus 100%, and then deepen into that expression. And that's how I look at life now. I'm not going at 150% because my body will react poorly. But when you understand your capacity and what you call velocity, that's how you could really shape your life into something that you're proud of and feels good and you actually have success. So that's how I look at things now, through a trauma-informed lens.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's not just about speed. So the other thing is, you have all of the people that are watching this, you have multiple talents. Let's just say that for right now. You have multiple talents, and I know you do, and we've just really met. Um, and you can make a living off your talents because you're talented. Let's face it, and it's kind of fun. However, everyone watching this also has a special, unique gift, and a gift is different than a talent. If you're using your talents, you can get better and better every year until you start peaking a little bit, and then you can't seem to get much higher. And by the way, if you're sick today, we'll find someone else with the same talent. However, if you've defined what your true gift is, you can get better at that every year. And if you're sick today, oh, that's going to be a problem because your gift is unique to you, unlike your talent. So one of life's journeys, I'm going to give everyone an assignment here, is to ask yourself, what is your true gift? Because if you determine what the gift is, you can use the talents to support the gift. It creates like a thermal so that you can soar without flapping your wings. Because you've seen some birds, they're flapping their wings all the time. Others are just coasting and soaring. So I'd like you to do a lot more soaring. So ask yourself, and by the way, your gift, you don't find it by looking out. You find it by looking in at you. You got to look on the inside. And the people that know your gift, probably better than you, are probably your closest friends, the people that have known you the longest. So maybe ask them a little bit. And if you say something like, well, I'm really good at sales, that's my gift. No, that's not a gift. There's something underlying that makes you good at sales, and that's what the gift is. So dig down a little bit. We won't get into trying to figure out what it is for all of you now. I'm just letting you know you all do have one, and it's powerful when you can define it and then direct the all of those other talents to support it. So make that a little bit of a homework assignment.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I think that the whole goal that I'm trying to help people understand too is just deepening into yourself, because you're right. People do view you differently than you view yourself. And I have, had people say to me, you're so good at this, you're so good at that, in ways I never see myself, right? That's kind of the reason why I'm doing this today. Is people are like, this is what you should do. These are your gifts. Like, and this is what I'm really good at, connecting with people. I'm really good at helping people understand how to deepen into themselves and understand complex, ideas. And I agree with all of that. But I also think that, when you put too much weight on other people's view of yourself, that also can be a bad thing. I don't think that, I think that you know yourself best.
You said something in the beginning that I want to address because it was really neat. In the beginning, you made the comment that you were proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me just talk about that for a minute. You, me, all of us, it's kind of hard to get people to be proud of you. By the way, that maybe is a worthless effort, because no matter what you do, you may not get your parents to be proud of you. You may not get your siblings to be proud of you. It's hard to get people to be proud of you. However, if you work at doing the things that would make you proud of you, now you can do that. So when you're given you have a decision to make, and it's a big decision, you're not sure which way to go. One thing you can do as a litmus test is actually ask yourself, between these two things, which one would make me proud of me? And if you keep doing the things, making the decisions that would make you proud of you, because you can control that, then you will develop some powerful self-worth. So I just wanted to share that, because you made that comment earlier and I wanted to tie that loop together.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also, so from thinking about it from a somatic lens, right? Because your body controls everything. I totally agree. It took me a really long time. Like, both my parents died. I never had, I've never been able to depend on anybody else's external view of me. So I've always had to find it in myself. A lot of people don't. And I agree with you about making those decisions that are aligned, that you will become proud of yourself. But the way you could do that is being able to deepen into yourself and feel, does the decision feel right in my body? Because there are times that I thought, a decision that you think would logically make yourself proud, your body might not agree with. And you don't know that unless you have the ability to actually live in your body in an embodied way and learn how to do that. And nobody teaches you how to do that. So that's what I'm really here to also share, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, I was having, one of the things I want to also share is, like, how do you make yourself proud of yourself in the moment? How do you change that thought pattern in that moment? And how do you change your body's reaction to it? Last night, what I like to say is like, try to do the opposite of what you would normally do or what you want to do in that moment. Because last night, I was feeling really crappy and I've been having a really, really tough few weeks. And even my therapist was like, go do something for yourself. Like, you really need to get back into yourself, because I've been working and heads down just trying to scale this, and it's really hard to do. And I don't have any support and I don't have any help. And a lot of people feel really isolated in those same ways, especially entrepreneurs, especially people that are thrown into this because of mass job loss. Like, you could think that job is good for you, but it might not be good for your health, and you might need to make a better decision. So I ended up going to, instead of sitting at home and crying like I wanted to do, and it took me a really long time to learn how to cry, I went to a yoga class that I don't normally go to, but I knew my body needed to move, and I knew it needed to move in a different way. And when I went to it, I felt so much better. So I agree with you. It's, how do you find the ways to make yourself proud? And for me, and what I'm trying to share with the world, is it's in your body. Your body knows. It has its intuitive wisdom. And that's the only way you could feel really deeply proud of yourself. And it lives in every part of the cell of your body. So if you say it to yourself more and more, I'm really proud of myself, your body will believe it. And if you believe you're safe and you show your body that you're safe, you will get better. You could reverse illness. You can actually stop chronic pain, and you could actually do better professionally, have better, to your original point about your niece, right? With financial issues, if you could actually align deeper in yourself and say, do I need to spend on this, or what would make my life better? How would I make myself proud? Is my body aligned? You can make those decisions faster and be fully aligned and not have to have a second thought. Never go backwards, right? From your original point, because you can't go backwards, but you can learn from the past and say that I don't want to make that mistake again. And this is how I'm going to change it. And the way I look at it is like it's A/B testing. Like, you would A/B test anything else in your life. You need to see what works and what doesn't. And the only way you could do that is by experiencing it firsthand.
Well, having written 7 books that have been bestsellers and thousands of articles, let me just share this. Every one of us is writing our book of life in real time. We're writing our own book of life. Now, first of all, do you want to write a tragedy? I don't think so. It's your book of life. As a matter of fact, I'd rather write a book that someone would want to read. So if the chapter you're currently working on, your real life, is becoming not a very good chapter or a bummer or a tragedy, maybe it's time for a new chapter instead of just continuing to write along. Because I'd like you all to have an amazing book of life, an amazing life. So remember, you're the author. Let's think about that for a second. You are the author of your life, not somebody else, not somebody else's opinion. You are writing it. And if you think someone else is, you're turning control over to who that person is. And you may not want them to be in control. You actually have far more control in your future than you realize. So a lot of what is happening is our mindset. For example, some of us have a scarcity mindset. Some of us has an abundance mindset. And a scarcity mindset limits us. An abundant mindset expands us. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say that you have a camera and you're about to enter a woods, a forest. A scarcity mindset would be, I wonder if there's any good photographs in there. Maybe. But if you have an abundant mindset, what you're going to say to yourself is, wow, Mother Nature is standing at the doorway of the woods saying there's infinite award-winning photographs. Welcome. Because there are. See, it's really about what's going on up here. So are you thinking scarce? I'm not that good. Well, if you think you're not that good, you probably won't be. That's future view, isn't it? But if you think I can get better, I can learn, there's far more to me than I've even discovered. As a matter of fact, there's another little thing I'd love to share, and that is there's the undiscovered you. Now, let me explain that just a minute. There's much more to you than you've explored so far. There's much more to all of you than you've had a chance to tap into. And I remember when I was a little kid, I met a great grandfather that was close to being 100, and I was just a little kid. And I remember thinking to myself when I met him, I wonder if he's discovered all that he could do, all that's inside of him. And I thought, probably not. And I wondered to myself about my dad and my mom and my brothers and uncles and aunts. And I came up with, I don't think so. But I decided that I would like to discover all that's inside of me. So when I was in my early 20s, I made a commitment that I would learn one new thing every year. Most people don't do that. So one year I learned how to scuba dive. One year I actually learned how to fly. One year there was an open mic in a comedy club on Thursday nights, and that was kind of scary, but I decided, hey, if I can make my friends laugh, I wonder if I can make strangers laugh.
I did that too. I did stand up on a whim myself. I agree with you. I started
doing all these different things, learning how to do fancy dives off a diving board one year. Learning how to make films. Well, what I discovered is I now play over a dozen musical instruments. I've made a number of films that have done really well. I've done all kinds of things. And by the way, I'm learning new things every year. So are you really discovering the hidden you? There's much more to all of us than we realize, and I would like us to discover it. You need a system. Maybe be open to learning new things, exploring, seeing what's in there. And it's all not just about your job either. It's about your personal life as well.
Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to educate as well, because it's not just like you had said something earlier about taking back control. That's a sense of agency. You have control over your life. So what I want people to understand that I've deepened into myself so much. I've had to integrate parts of myself that I never even knew existed, right? But you could only do that by deepening into yourself and slowing down and taking those moments. And you can change your whole life, and you could do things you never thought you could do. I've survived literally my worst nightmare. Like, I'm living my current worst nightmare, something I've had premonitions about. And I've done all the things I never thought I could do. And I've done it with a regulated nervous system. I've done it while healing chronic 40 years plus of chronic pain and illness, and also breaking addictions. I stopped drinking, and it's been a beautiful journey, and everybody can do that. That's what I want to empower everyone to do. But you need to have that sense of agency. And trauma that lives in our genes, it's epigenetic. It becomes more pronounced over environmental factors, is what ends up preventing us and holding us back. But when we can get to a regulated nervous system, the world is our oyster. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think everyone should definitely try it. And the first step is just taking a pause and a breath, and then you could figure out the rest from there. But just leading with nervous system regulation versus anticipation is the key to society. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today, and I look forward to following along with it. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your week, and looking forward to seeing you here same time, same place, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a good rest of your day. How are you feeling?